Okay, welcome everybody to Leveraging Creative Laziness. I'll be your host, Owen. I've got with me Noah and Emily, who are going to help take questions and assist with any problems you have with the little exercise we're going to do. So yes, leveraging creative laziness, as why and when to replace people with a script. The key points here is creative laziness. This isn't the laziness of, oh, I don't want to do work. This is the laziness of, I'm going to spend 20 hours now so that I don't have to do this 30-second thing ever again the rest of my life. And I think that's awesome. And that is really what a huge percentage of science and technology and engineering in general, and computers especially, is about. People would do all sorts of math calculations by hand. It was error prone, it was hard. Now we have calculators and spreadsheets and database programs that will just do all that for us. And that is the first sort of bit of the creative laziness. So why be creatively lazy? Hard work is very important in life. There's a lovely little saying, talent doesn't determine how good you get, it determines how fast you get good. And it's very true. If you are amazingly talented, you can get good pretty fast, but then you stop unless you keep working hard at getting better. But being smart about what you work on and how you work on it is very key. Little bit of hard work now for lots of easy work later is the goal of creative laziness. I want to be lazy in the future, so I'm going to work now. For a while, going to college was that. Now it's a little different. But another thing about being creatively lazy is you can just bend nature to your will. You have control over the world, and you can use it for profit of all sorts. Literal, profit, money making. If I can sell you a computer program for $10,000 that does the work that it used to take 5 people to do, you're saving money and I'm up $10,000. But also you give people more free time, more entertaining work, more involved work. You don't have people calculating the 100th digit of pi by hand because that's the only way you can find out what it is. Now people are doing more interesting things, usually. So how to be creatively lazy, the basic process. Many of you will be familiar with the meme, step 1, step 2, step 3, question mark, question mark, question mark, step 4, profit. This is that with everything filled in. So find something that doesn't require truly human judgment. Computers are not very good. They're getting better, but they're not very good at dealing with stuff that requires human judgment. What computers are very good at is doing the exact same set of things in the exact same way every single time. So teach a machine how to do that thing that you figured out that is necessary. And then all that time that humans used to spend doing that thing, whatever it is, it might be making a car, it might be adding 2 numbers, that's now time that they can use on being lazy, or that you can use on being lazy, or that people don't have to spend money paying people to do. And there's the profit. You have more free time to relax, to be creatively lazy on other things, to charge people for the work that you did so that everybody in the world can be a little bit lazier. So computerized laziness is what we're mostly talking about here, for a number of reasons. One, it's what I know. I recognize that there is creative laziness to be done in all sorts of wonderful ways with robotics and 3D printing and all sorts of other things, but I don't know how any of those work. What I do know is computers. So it's what I can talk about. So the tools I tend to like to use for computerized laziness Bash is a great one, which is just, if you've ever brought up the what's called a command line interface, you see it in movies all the time where a person's just typing at a keyboard and the computer does things. Bash is my favorite version of that. Perl is a small programming language specifically designed to be good at writing small, short programs that do one or two small things and then produce a nice, useful result. Python is designed to be used a bit like Perl, but also to support bigger projects. Perl, once you get past a few hundred or a few thousand lines, Perl starts to get kind of problematic, whereas Python is designed to scale up a little better. JavaScript, which many of you heard, it's how almost all of the web stuff, almost anything on a web page happens nowadays is JavaScript. And it can be used very well for making little scripts and doing little things. If you've ever pulled up the developer tools on your browser, you can change web pages and do all sorts of stuff with just little tiny bits of JavaScript, and that can be all sorts of useful. Some larger tools have specific built-in languages created just for writing little scripts in. Probably the best known example of that is computer games. Lots of computer games out there, if you know how to get to it, have a console where you can type in commands in a programming language called Lua, which is designed just for manipulating games. And if you've ever heard about mods or modding, that's how that happens, is people change the web scripts, and now there's new content for the game, and it's awesome. REST APIs. So APIs, application programmer interfaces, and REST is just one standard. There are many, but if you but I recommend, but REST is becoming very popular and it's very useful. And so I recommend you learn that if you learn any of them. And with that, the goal is you can go and make a call to some third-party service and get some useful data. Google Maps is a classic example. I want to, calculate something about the distance, the distance between these 2 points. Well, I can go ask Google Maps, how long would that take me on a car? How long would that take me on the bus, on a subway, et cetera, et cetera. Show me a picture of it. You can get all of that with the Google Maps API. And there are lots of other APIs for lots of other different things. And if you combine a little bit of scripting knowledge with some of these different APIs that are out there, you can get amazing things done in very short amounts of time. And that can be a wonderful thing for laziness. So now we're all going to have a little group activity. I'm going to put a link in chat, just one moment. And to everyone. There we go. So that link should bring you to a pop-up that says, do you want to make a copy of this? Please say yes. And once you get there, you will see this page. So I'm just going to wait for people to tell me that they have gotten the Google Sheets copied. So if you could just type an X in chat when you have gotten that done, that way I can just see how many X's we've got and know when to move on. Okay. Alrighty. So What we're going to do here is a little sort of example of a very simple bit of creative laziness. So this is a Google sheet that, it's a spreadsheet. It's got, as you can see, a list of people, first name, last name, email address, a game they like to play, and a salutation, Mr. or Mrs. Mercs, whatever salutation they want. And then there's this email sent thing, which we will get to. So what we're going to do is, this is called a mail merge, where you write the same email and send it to a bunch of people at once. It's a wonderful little example of how to use a computer to be lazy. So, the first thing is you would propagate this with some people. We just have 2 to start with. That's fine. You don't need to add any more. So now you can go to your Gmail account and you type compose. And as the chefs might say, here's one I prepared earlier. So you just leave the 2 blank, which leaves the message in the drafts folder. And then, we're going to do an example of inviting people to a birthday party, but you can use this for pretty much anything. I think it should be relatively easy to see how to extend that. So, hello, salutation. So, Mr. or Mrs. or whatever else. Then last name, and because I'm smart, I used the wrong delimiter. So, hello, Mr. Smith, I would like to invite you to my birthday party next Saturday. We will be playing game, whatever their personal favorite game is, and lots of other fun things. Do you think that sounds fun? First name? So Owen in my case. RSVP, which is a acronym for the French Respondez s'il vous plaît, or respond please, tell me what you're going to do, coming or not. And then thanks me. Simple, easy. And then you can send this out to all of your friends. So the way you do that, you type this out, you close up the thing, the window that causes it to get saved to your drafts folder. Once it's there in your drafts folder, we come back here, and there's this wonderful mail merge button that exists. And then we can send the emails. And these recipients, I'm using a fun little bit about Gmail. So I happen to know that if you have a Gmail account, if you add plus and then anything after the plus is ignored by Google, and they will send it all to the same email address as if the plus wasn't there at all. And so this is an email address I created just for today and tomorrow, which is just going to receive whatever email you send to it and delete it. I will not be able to see whether you did this or not. It's just deleted. But you'll be able to see that you sent it. And so you'll know that it worked that way. So mail merge, send emails. Okay, and it may ask you for permission. If you want, you can go ahead and give the permission, or you can just watch what I'm doing and be a little paranoid, and that's fine. So then I copy the subject line. I'm going to wait for you to catch up. So again, if you can X up in chat when you have gotten the mail merge to this point here where it's asking for the subject. Okay. And anybody who's having trouble, please feel free to type in chat and we'll do our best to help. Is everybody there? If you're having a little trouble, please just post now, just, having trouble or something, quick into chat so that we know that we need to wait a little longer. That's fine. We've got plenty of time. Okay. So moving on. Okay, we paste the name birthday party in here. We hit OK. And it runs and it sent those emails. Now, if I want to be sure, I can come here and I can look at the sent mails and I would see them here, except I configured this email, like I said, to delete absolutely everything the minute it gets sent or received. So I can't tell. But from having played with it before, I know that it did in fact send those emails. And now I want to look to show you how that happened. This is the script that was written by Martin Hoxie to make this actually work. And as you can see, it's only about 200 lines, which sounds like a lot, but when you look at how much of it is comments, it's really not that much. And as you become more experienced with programming, you'll start to learn how to handle things much bigger than this. So, okay, what we can see, okay, the name of the recipient column, where the email address is recipient. The email sent column should be named email sent. Recipient, email sent. On function on open. As you can see, when the UI starts, it grabs the UI and creates a new menu with the item send emails. And when that item is called, the send emails method is called. So these two are the same thing. And so that's why this exists. This stuff, this thing here and then this thing here were both added by this on open command. Pretty simple. And then send emails. It has, it takes a subject line, which might be empty, and it wants to know about what the currently active spreadsheet is. That's pretty easy and obvious. Okay, so if the subject line isn't sent for us, if it doesn't exist yet, create an input box that says, please give me the line, just like we saw. And then if its subject line is cancel or empty still, okay, we don't actually want to do this, return, we're done. But if we do have the subject line filled out now, get template from drafts with the subject line. And we'll look at exactly what that does in a minute, but it's kind of obvious. It goes and it looks through all of the draft emails you have and finds one with a subject line that matches, and then hands that off as the email template. Then go to the Excel spreadsheet, grab all of the actual data, get the values for that data, ignore the first row because it just assumes that the first row is headers, because it is. If we wanted more than one row of headers, or we didn't want to have headers, we would have to change the script, and that's fine. Ideally, the script would be smart enough that it wouldn't need to do this sort of thing, that it could be dynamic and figure out. But for scripts, good enough is. These scripts are designed to be quick and dirty, easy, work well enough to get the job done, so that you don't have to send this email yourself, or dozens of emails. Imagine if there were 100 people on this list you wanted to invite to your birthday party. Typing out each one of those would be a massive pain in the butt. Much easier to just do this. Okay, so we ignore the headers. It figures out which column is the email sent column, and then create, this is a kind of fancy thing that basically just says, figure out which columns figure out which columns have already been sent and which ones haven't. The details of how it does that, I'm not going to bother going into, doesn't really matter. So now, it just goes through. So this is just going through every single row, and if an email hasn't been sent, then fill in the template and send it. Otherwise, and if you do send it, put a note in the email column saying when you sent it. Nice and simple. Otherwise, if something went wrong, put the error message into that email sent row so that the human involved can look at it and figure out what's going on. And if you didn't change anything, then just don't change it. Not very hard. And that then, now that we have that list of what the email sent column as a whole should look like, just, set it. So that way, we update this entire thing all at once. We don't have to do it all 100, 200 times, whatever that number is. It just updates it once, because UI updates can be a little slow, and we don't want to slow ourselves down if we don't have to. So now we've sent all the emails we're going to send. We've updated the spreadsheet, and we're done pretty much. So now let's look at the couple of bits that we didn't that we sort of skipped over. We've got get Gmail template from drafts. So, hey, Gmail, give me all of your draft emails. Hey, find me all the drafts that look like this subject line. Okay, give me the message. Okay, and then this is take the first one. So I just want the first match. Okay, that first match, give me the message. Now I'm going to do some stuff with the images and attachments on that message so that I don't accidentally change those, because you wouldn't want to change what image you're pointing at or the details of an attachment when you're doing this sort of fill in the blank style. Template engine is what it's sort of formally called. Okay, so creates all the inline images, handles all that, and then it goes through and this bit updates all the images to be correct, and then we fill in template from object, which is pretty much, we pull, we start with the template email. So that's, this is the template message. We pull it in, we replace everything we need to replace. So it goes through and looks for any time it says last name or game or salutation, and replaces it with whatever that row has. That's this data key replace bit. And there we go. Pretty quick, pretty awesome, pretty short little chunk of code that, makes two nice bits of Google work together in a fairly simple way that can save you a ton of time and some really aching fingers. So, how are we doing on time? Okay, we are just about out of time. So if you could show me, for a quick group participation, if you could post in chat what you think a good example of creative laziness in the real world is. So here's the first one that came to my mind. I mean, if instead of having to drive in traffic for 2 hours, if I can just push a button and then answer some emails and get some work done, that sounds great to me. I mean, there's a huge amount, tens of thousands of people are working on self-driving cars. It's not easy. Yeah, listening to an audiobook instead of reading it is another great example. But also stuff like sewing machines. I mean, I have, fixed a ripped seam by hand a few times. It's not particularly fun. Once you figure out how to make a sewing machine work, it's so much easier and faster. A microwave, I mean, compared to cooking something, a toaster, yeah, absolutely. A microwave, another great example. A dishwasher. Dishwasher was famously invented when a Victorian noblewoman got tired of having her fancy dishes keep getting chipped by servants washing them. So she created a machine to do it for us. Windshield wipers, ooh, that's a great example. Writing. The Iliad and the Odyssey are great, wonderful works, but they required memorizing 8 hours each of epic poetry. Google is an amazing example of creative laziness, both for what it does and for how it does it. If you look into how Google got started, it's a wonderful example. I don't have time to go into the details, but it's a good story. So yes, this is a quote by an old white guy, but if you're still listening to me after all this time, you're at least okay with the idea of listening to old white guys. The reasonable person adapts themselves to the world. The unreasonable one persists to adapt the world to themselves. Therefore, all progress depends upon the unreasonable person. George Bernard Shaw. It's so true. Be the unreasonable person. Make the advances. Don't sit there and be like, oh God, I don't want to have to copy, these 200 lines over and over and over again. I'll just write a little script to do it. Or I don't feel like, reading this website. I'm going to find a text-to-speech thing and I'll just listen to it. All sorts of stuff like that. So here's the thing. This is stuff you can do every day. If it's boring, you can probably automate it. It's easier if it's already in a computer, but you can automate building cars. You can automate almost anything. Go ahead, do it, find it. This is a thing you can do. And that's it. Any questions, comments? Okay. Well, we got finished a little bit early, so I guess I can tell the Google story. So back in the early 90s, the way that searching up for websites worked was you would go to something like Ask Jeeves or Yahoo, and you would, type in your search, and it would find web pages that said, this is what I'm about. They would be these meta tags that Yahoo would look at, and it would say, okay, you say this, you tell me that this page is about women and minorities and technology. Okay, so, women in technology, pretty good match. Here, maybe you'll think this page is interesting. The problem is, just because you say that your web page is about women in technology, that might not be true for a bunch of different reasons. You could just be trying to sell a bunch of ads. That was the most common. So what Google came up with as a wonderful idea is, instead, let's look at what other web pages are saying about yours when they link to you. So if you go on Facebook and say, hey, I'm having a great time at the Women in Technology link, NetApp presentation, then Google will see that link and it will see, okay, women, technology, NetApp, presentation, those are all things talking about, this web page that is being linked to. And if you link to, say, the schedule of workshops, then that schedule of workshops will get points towards women and technology and that sort of thing in the Google algorithm. And so when somebody Googles for women in technology, they'll be a little bit more likely to see that page. They'll see it a little higher in the search results. And that's how Google became a giant, is because that technique of ignoring what the person is saying about themselves and listening to what other people are saying about them was so much better as a solution to finding interesting and relevant data on the web. So much better. You really have no idea if you didn't live it. That Google is now, Google made tens of millionaires, maybe hundreds of millionaires, just by that one idea of, hey, let's be lazy, but creatively. Let's instead of asking the page what it's about, let's just look at what other people tell us about it. That's it. It seems so simple. And it made so many people so very rich. And it made everybody's life so much easier. If you never tried searching on the web for stuff before Google, it was hard. And you would have to go through a lot of time. You could spend hours just tweaking your search, like this little bit and that little bit, just to get something useful out. And then Google just does it in 0.05 of a second most of the time. And so Google is letting everybody in the world be lazy and taking a tiny little bit of ad revenue to do it. And that's how they make their money. And it's amazing. Oh, okay. I am now running close to time, and I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to go and get a drink of water or something before their next lecture, or are we closing down? Anyway, thank you for coming. I hope it was interesting. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the talk.
Thank you, Owen. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Nora. Robert.
Thank you all.